All right. We're here. We're going to preview huge UCLA Final Four game. Who would have thought I'd be saying this? Last time I was on here, because of course I was out of town last time. They talked was I was saying we'd be lucky to win one or two games in the tournament, and here we are in the Final Four. This is it's crazy that we're even here. Before we talk about this incredible, exciting matchup between UCLA and Gonzaga, quick thoughts on the first half of what we just saw between Baylor and Houston. Baylor was dominant. I thought Houston had to get a lot of offensive rebounds to create more shots than Baylor to have a shot to win this game, just because Houston doesn't have that length. So I thought that could give them a shot because they don't shoot as well, but they could take more total shots. But Jared Butler was draining threes, and barely anyone was hitting shots for Houston. So that it's basically over at halftime.
Yeah, before Baylor went on pause for COVID, they were playing better than Gonzaga, which can be shown in the lines. They were actually the favorite to win the national tournament before they went on pause. And then obviously started out really sputtering when they came back, but they seem to be getting into form at the perfect time.
Yeah, plain and simple, cut and dry. Houston can't shoot anywhere near as well as Baylor. Houston's only chance they have were getting rebounds on the offensive glass, and so far they've failed to do so. And Baylor guard play just dominates.
They're just Sasser is doing his best to keep him in the game, but it's definitely not enough when no one else is hitting. And Jared Butler was 4 or 5 from 3.
It's pretty good.
Yep, I agree. I think with all the hype that Gonzaga's gotten, people have kind of forgotten about Baylor, but Baylor's showing that they are very much a real contender to take the title this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that and Baylor has done well to use some of their length, and also Mark Vital's done a good job to stay involved, because I thought that potentially he could be a problem since he's a bit of a bowling ball, but not tall against some of these lanky Houston guys. But they've done well, and they've gotten everyone involved. They've got Davion Mitchell has been contributing with 9 points as well. So it's been a good showing for Baylor so far, and they look cruising on their way. Hopefully, we potentially get some sort of turnaround from Houston and make things a little intriguing, but it looks like Baylor's well on their way. But yeah, wow, who would have thought UCLA against Gonzaga tips off in around 2.5 hours. We're super excited, and who would even thought we would be here? Last time I was talking about it with these guys was when we were about to face Michigan State, and we were saying, it was going to be a tough matchup against Michigan State, and if we got past them, we liked our shot against BYU, but we didn't think we'd be able to go much further than round of 32. But here we are with an incredible performance. It's really written off of the 3 J's, Juzang, Jules, and Jaime. And against Michigan, it was purely the Juzang show. We rode him all the way to a low-scoring victory. Credit to Michigan for great defense. However, they should have won that game. Franz Wagner has a even mediocre game, and they probably win. Michigan did not have a good offensive showing, and we benefited from that greatly. So I think tonight we're going to need, I said for us to make a run in the tournament, we needed 3 guys to step up every night. I think we're going to need, I thought we got lucky with really only 1 guy. It was good defense against Michigan, but only 1 guy in Juzang stepping up offensively. I think we're going to probably need at least 4 tonight to really put up 15 plus points to really have a shot against the high scoring Gonzaga offense.
So let's talk about a couple keys that last time that we broke down. A lot of them they did well. We did not turn the ball over that much against Michigan. In the first half, we were a little unsettled, but we kind of settled in. Tiger Campbell, yes, Johnny Juzang went off, but Tiger Campbell had 11 points on his own on a good shooting clip. And we said that Michigan is going to not respect Tiger Campbell from the perimeter. So he's going to have some open looks. He hit a jumper. He hit a 3-pointer in the corner. He had a couple nice layups to the 10. So Tiger Campbell really helped out. But one thing that Kevin pointed out was a key was that even in the Alabama game, there's a lot of stagnant offense. And that kind of proved to be the same against Michigan, although Juzang was able to beat it. So that's one thing that I'm looking that hopefully we can turn around. But once again, we also said that UCLA has done a very good job on the perimeter guarding the 3 this year in the tournament. They held Michigan to it was something like 3 of 13 from 3. and we were only 3 of 11. But UCLA's perimeter defense has been great. The question is against Gonzaga, against a team that shoots over 60% from inside the three. How well are we going to be able to guard the paint?
Yeah, and so last game when we played Michigan, one of the big things is how we were able to defend really well. Especially against a team that's top 10 in Ken Palm efficiency, we still held them to under 50 points. But Gonzaga is another breed. They're by and away the best offensive team in the country, and they can score in so many different ways. They can score inside, they can score from the three. So there's going to have to be two things really. We're going to have to, pray for a bad shooting night from them. That is a given. Otherwise, we're going to lose. And we also really need to make sure that we stay focused for the entire 40 minutes. There can't be stagnant possessions which lead to transition the other way. That's just not going to work, because a quick 10-0 run, which Gonzaga is extremely capable of, will really put UCLA in a hole for the entire game.
Yep. And I think one big area where UCLA is going to need to see huge games is out of the bigs, because if you look at some of these matchups, the big perimeter guys for Gonzaga with Kispert and Suggs, I think with Juzang and Hawkes, it's not a perfect matchup, but they can play them pretty close to a draw. But then when you're looking at the bigs, Drew Timme, it's going to have to be Cody Riley, and then it's also going to have to be Kenneth Nwuba, who actually stepped up huge last game in his short spurts. Defensively, he was able to contribute a lot. So they're going to need another solid defensive showing, I think, from Riley, Nwuba, whatever other bigs Cronin decides to throw out there for a few minutes. So that too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And let's talk about things from a matchup perspective, because starting with the bigs, I think that it's very much a matter of when, not if, Cody Riley gets into foul trouble. So I think it is going to be huge how Kenny Nwuba plays off the bench. And he was huge against Hunter Dickinson last week, drawing 2 charges. Obviously, like early in the season, it felt like he was just in the game to be a bodies, maybe suck up a few fouls. But last game he was a little more, he's definitely a big contact guy, and he is soaking up a lot of fouls, but he used them much more wisely against Hunter Dickinson, and it's going to be key for when he does play to use them wisely against Drew Timme. Drew Timme is a 70% free throw shooter, so obviously he's a little better than I think Dickinson was, but I think it's going to be huge how we defend Drew Timme. And I think at the start of the game, Timme is very much a confidence-fed player for me, so I think that's going to be huge to be physical with him, put a couple knocks on him, whether that's a block shot or maybe like one a tough foul, not a dirty foul, but a hard fair foul to really set the tempo. Like, you're not gonna come out here and flex on us with your little mustache celebrations and all that, because we want to set the tone that we're not going to let him bully us. I think that's going to be key, because when he is able to both create steals and run the floor, because he runs the floor well, and as well as get the ball in the high or the low post with space to work, that's a problem. So we need to be on him like glue, because it feels like he's a real energy and confidence boost for their whole team.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious, Kevin, you opened up Pandora's box here, because Cody Riley has had foul troubles pretty much every game of the tournament, except I think against Abilene Christian he was all right. But one thing I'm not too certain on is if Kenneth Nwuba is going to be the first big man that comes off the bench against Drew Timme, because Drew Timme and Hunter Dickinson are 2 different players. Timmy's got a lot more finesse. He has great footwork. He's much more quicker laterally, while Dickinson was more of a, I'll get the ball in the post, I'm going to back you down with strength and physicality. And that's what Kenneth Nwuba was a good neutralizer for, to an extent. He grabbed some rebounds, he blocked a shot, and he played Dickinson with physicality. I'm curious to see if Mick adjusts to this by going with either someone who's a little quicker like Mac Etienne, or if we're going to see the small ball 5 with Jalen Clark. I'm curious how Jalen Clark to me is a wild card every game, because we never know how he's going to be used.
Yeah, I think that's interesting how the matchups look. Do you guys think that Jalen Clark potentially guard Timme if we went to the small ball 5?
I think Jalen Clark can definitely guard Timme. Look, he's going to score points. There's no doubt about it. I'm pretty sure he's averaging 20 points a game almost. So he's going to score. The question is, can we slow him down? And I think if Clark can, Clark is really great at getting his body on the line for the team. So if he can get a couple charges, have Timmy in foul trouble. That's what he can be used for, and that's what I'm sure Nick is going to try to use.
You guys think there's any chance of a super small ball Hawkes at center lineup that would maybe defensively not be as well, but if, like we were saying earlier, UCLA needs to put some points up, if you could throw Hawkes at the 5 with a bunch of other shooters around him, I think that's a much better offensive lineup than any of the ones.
I think if Singleton's hitting, I
It's
want
not
to see him try
impossible.
it.
The only problem I have with that is we really do want to play our game. Gonzaga is the 6th or 7th fastest team in the country, and we can't play an up and down game against a team that shoots 64.1% true shooting percentage. So we really need to slow the game down, and that's why having a big man who can really, manage his way inside is important. If we play a small ball lineup and we're flying up and down the court with them, we're going to lose because they're a better shooting team and they have more weapons. That's just how it goes. So I understand that logic, but I do think that that's playing into their hands a little bit.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that it's really going to have to be, we're going to be seeing really like hot streaks of David Singleton and or Jake Kyman to really justify that lineup for an extended period of time. But it would be interesting because Jalen Clark's been huge on the defensive end, but he hasn't, I don't think, really gotten hot from shooting outside. And he's been okay here and there, but he's not really a shooter. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of other matchups, do we think so? Would Jaime guard Kispert most likely? And then Jules on Suggs probably? Or do we think, and then would Ayayi match up against Juzang? And I think Tiger will probably be on Nemhard in terms of the starting 5.
Yeah, I think Tiger's on Nemhard. They're going to attack Tiger hard, even though Tiger takes the most charges and defensively he's been solid. The only time that Tiger Campbell gets beat is if someone shoots over him, just because of his height. I think Jules on Suggs is interesting, but I think you're right. I think they're going to hide Juzang on either Kispert or Ayayi. And
I think Kispert's too long to go up against Juzang, but
you're right. But Hawkes will take the other. They're both 6'6".
I guess so.
But I think that's the assignment. And Riley will obviously be on Timmy. But one thing I'm curious to see is if Juzang is cold, because Mark Few is obviously going to try to drop his best game plan to take away Juzang. And when we need buckets, when is Mick Cronin going to go to Riley? Because what we've noticed in a couple of these games is down the stretch against Alabama and down the stretch against Michigan, Cody Riley hit a couple big buckets. It seems like he gets 2 or 3 post-ups or at least touches down low at the end of the game, and they always seem to good. It always seems like Cody Riley almost coasts through the first 35 minutes of the game, and then the last 5 minutes he puts up like 6 or 8 points and ends up being pivotal. So I wonder how Mick Cronin is going to use Cody Riley in the post game tonight, because Cody Riley can definitely take Drew Timme down low. There's Cody Riley for being 6'9" and 240 pounds. He's strong.
Yeah, definitely. I agree that what you said about Riley, and I think that it just really depends when the game is more slowed down, like at the end of the games we had against Alabama and Michigan, the game was slowed down so much that if you can actually get Riley in good position, it's better for him because he needs the ball in good position because he's strong. But as you notice, I've seen a few times he's lost his balance and stuff. And if there's a guy like Dickinson who's taller than him, it's tough for him to get that shot, that hook shot or post move up around those long arms. So I think that today's going to be a huge test of Drew Timme's strength and post defense, because if we slow the game down and we get inside of Riley, he's a strong guy and he's probably stronger than Timme, even though Timmy's obviously a more well-rounded player. So that'll be a big matchup, I think, because that's another offensive X factor. Like I said, I really want to see 4 guys go for good offensive showings to really think we have a chance today. And I think Riley could be one of them.
Yeah, Cody Riley earlier in the season, before his ankle injury, had games where he was scoring 17, 20 points a game. And what he does is he gets to the foul line well, and he was really able to get that post presence. And he seems to only do it for the last 5 minutes of games now, but he is there and he clearly has it in him. So I think that could be something that UCLA goes to a little bit more often, especially if one of our, the Jays gets cold. We really do need Jules to have a better game today. But if the Jays are not shooting well, he is a guy where, it's either going to be an offensive foul or free throws. And at some point that might be the gamble that we have to take in order to get some points on the board.
You guys what do you guys see or expect from Hawkes tonight as far as what he might do differently? Because if you look at last game, even though Wagner didn't play very well offensively, he absolutely shut down Hawkes on the defensive end. He was basically a non-factor. So do you see this as a better matchup for him? Do you expect him to maybe change his style of play a little more anyway against Gonzaga?
I think with Hawkes, I think he's probably the most analytical in terms of when he decides to take shots. Jaime will either take 3 shots a game, and I really think it comes down to his rhythm. When Jaime hits his first couple of buckets, he builds confidence mid-game like nobody else, and that's when you see his 25-point games. But when you see him miss his first couple of shots, then he pumps the brakes on himself, and he'll only take about 4 or 5 field goal attempts.
Then I see him miss big ones down the stretch. Like he had that shot to ice the game against Michigan, he missed.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. His confidence wanes very quickly. It's very rapid. So hopefully, what we can see from Jaime is that Gonzaga is not athletically superior to Michigan. They're not superior. So if Jaime can get a couple of buckets early on, even if it's an offensive rebound putback, which he's very good at for his size, hopefully we could get him going. And if he does, it's going to take a lot of pressure off Juzang. Another thing is I hope Jules Bernard, he's kind of in the same boat. He was 0 of 8 to start the game. Then he hit his last 2 buckets, which were huge. But it clearly looked like Jules was limping with an ankle injury during the game. So hopefully that's patched up. Or actually, I take that back. Mick Cronin said that in the press game that Jules played the entire game with turf toe. Oh, wow. So hopefully Jules is feeling better, and that's going to help his shot-making ability.
Yeah, some of his shots looked forced, but when he is – one of the big things that I think Jules could do tonight if he's healthy is this has happened for a couple years now. When there's a big run going against UCLA, sometimes he's able to just drive and hit some crazy shot that actually manages to change the momentum. And he's very aggressive. And sometimes that's what you need. UCLA has a lot of stagnant ball. We've seen it over the past couple of weeks. And he is able to really just get to the lane. That's something that we're going to need tonight from him. Hopefully his toe is feeling better.
I also think Juzang not having any ankle problems is huge. Yeah, and not to harp too much on Cody Riley, but I also realize that when Timmy isn't in the game, they don't have, like, of their guys who get the most minutes, they don't really have someone who can match Cody Riley's strength. So when Timmy takes a break for the game, he plays about 28 minutes a game on average, probably more right now in the tournament. But when he's out, that's the time we can take advantage of Cody Riley's offensive presence, because obviously our other bigs, especially Kenny's in the game, he doesn't offer much on the offensive end. No. So hopefully, we can take advantage of Cody if we ever get a matchup advantage. And yeah, about what you asked about Jaime's, what you asked Kevin about if Jaime has a better matchup now, I think it's a little better matchup. But Kispert is still a quick guy. He's lanky. He's 6'7" versus 6'9" like Wagner. And I think that he's not as good laterally as Wagner is, Kispert. So I think that if Jaime can catch the ball in space and run at Kispert, get a good running start, I noticed, and then put some sort of crossover move on him, I think that's what he needs. So I think that he needs to have space on the catch. And then penetrate from there. Because I think that in a more stagnant game like we saw against Michigan, that doesn't feed into Jaime as much. And like that was kind of like the worst case scenario for Jaime last week, because it was a stagnant game, so he couldn't get the ball in transition, in space, running at the hoop, and he was cold from the outset shooting outside. So if he can get the ball in space this time and he can hit a few outside shots early, that's what we need. We need that. We need Juzang to stay hot. We need Tiger, like he did last week, of course, to hit a few key clutch shots. And then, of course, the rest of the guys are able to step up, and we need to pray that Gonzaga doesn't has some sort of below average shooting game. Otherwise, it's not going to look good for us.
Yeah, and for Juzang, I'm expecting Gonzaga, if not to be face guarding him from the offset, to be guarding him really closely, and especially on those curl screens that UCLA runs for him a lot. I would expect Gonzaga's guys to just jump to those screens. So I'd say for Juzang, he needs to be ready to cut back door, because they're not going to be giving him any space trying to get open around the outside. So
really good point.
I think that's a really good point. And that's the chance for Mick to really show how good of a coach he is. If he can be one step ahead of Mark Few in that and sort of have some sort of alternative play sets to get Juzang open looks, if he's expecting them to go over the top of the curl screens we've been seeing to full deny on the outside, is it Juzang that gets open on a different type of cut, different type of play, or is it someone else that opens up because they're spending so much attention on Juzang? This is a big chance. I thought Mick outcoached Juwan Howard. And this is his chance to really cement himself, obviously with a less talented team, much less talented team than what we're facing tonight, but show what he's got. So final thoughts, do we even bother to make predictions? We're pretty biased, but it's also tough considering we're going up against a team that has been discussed by many experts as one of the best college basketball teams in recent years. So any final thoughts and predictions?
I have a quick prediction. The Gonzaga hasn't lost a game by single digits since Jalen Suggs wasn't playing versus West Virginia. That was the third game of the season. It's the only game that Gonzaga didn't win by 10 plus points. I do not think that this game is a blowout. I think that UCLA keeps it close, continue to play hard, and even if they don't win, continue to show exactly how dangerous they're going to be with Mick as their coach.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think UCLA at least should be able to cover the spread here. I would say, I think Gonzaga, they're 14-point favorites, right?
Yep.
So they should kind of show that was maybe a little bit of a disrespectful line. They could at least show that much.
Well, this is what I think. They counted us out against Alabama. They counted us out against Michigan. They're obviously counting us out against Gonzaga. And so I will go on the record to say, not only I am skeptical, of course, this game, but I'm going to say the exact same phrase that worked for me last time against Michigan. I am skeptical, but I think UCLA wins.
Do you think that's a low-scoring game or
no?
Lower,
well,
or are we going to have to?
So here's the thing: Gonzaga has yet to score less than 73 points a game in any game. Mick Cronin, if he holds Gonzaga to 73 points, he is 28-8. So if UCLA can keep Gonzaga under 80 points, I think this could be a game.
That's what I think. I think that's what we need to. I think if we win, it's some sort of
we're not going to win a shootout.
If we win, I think it's going to be some sort of 80-78 type game. I really think we're going to have to score a lot. Maybe not an obscene amount, but it's have to be a lot. But I unfortunately I see this game going. I think we'll hang in it more than USC did at the start, but I see it finishing some similarly to the USC game, and I see it potentially being around that 14-point spread margin. Just because I think that even if we limit one or two of their offensive threats, they're just too well-rounded, and they put on absolute passing clinics, and they pass up open shots to get layups sometimes. And of course, Mick has instilled this gritty defense throughout the tournament run, but I think that I think we're going to play well, and we're going to show up, but I think it's going to end up being around 10 to 15 points for Gonzaga. So yeah, I guess that does it for us. If you listened, thank you. It's been fun. Go Bruins. It'll be intense. We're going to be nervous over here, but yeah, we'll see how this goes, and we'll check back at some point. Go Bruins.